dated 12/1/82. Shortly before midnight on August 8, 1969, the prisoner informed his crime partners that now was the time for helter-skelter. The crime partners were directed to accompany Charles Watson to carry out the orders given by the prisoner. The crime partners at the time were Linda Kasabian, Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel. As the crime partners were in the car getting ready to leave the area, the prisoner informed them, "You girls know what I mean," something witchy, instructing them to leave a sign. Crime partner Watson drove directly to 10050 Celliel Drive, where he stopped the car. Linda Kasabian held 3 knives and 1 gun during the trip. Watson then cut the overhead telephone wires at the scene and parked the vehicle.
Excuse me, where are you getting this from?
This is from the board report dated 12/1/82. Do you have a copy of that?
No, I don't. Whose signature is on the end of that?
This is a board report. This is the hearing that was held at that particular time, and this was the reading of the incident offense at that particular time.
That sounds like a book.
Well, if you'll listen, and then you can make corrections, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Crime partner Atkins and Krenwinkel had been in the back seat with Linda Kasabian, a passenger in the right front seat. Watson then carried some rope over the hill into the outer premises of 10050 Celliel Drive. The vehicle containing victim Stephen Parent approached the gate opening into the street. Watson stopped him at gunpoint, and Parent stated, "Please don't hurt me, I won't say anything." Watson shot Parent 5 times and turned off the ignition of his car. All of the crime partners then proceeded to the house where Watson cut a window screen. Linda Kasabian acted as a lookout while another female crime partner entered the residence through an open window and admitted the other crime partners. Within the residence, the prisoner's crime partners, without provocation, logic, or reason, murdered April Abigail Ann Folger by inflicting a total of 28 multiple stab wounds on her body. Victim Foyket, count 2, was killed by multiple stab wounds, a gunshot wound to his left back, and multiple forced trauma of blunt nature to the head. Victim Sharon Tate Polanski was killed with multiple stab wounds. Victim Jay Sebring was killed by multiple stab wounds. On August 10, 1969, the prisoner drove his crime partners to a location near the residence of victim Lino and Rosemary LaBianca. The prisoner entered the LaBianca home alone at gunpoint and tied up the victims. He impressed them with the statement that they would not be harmed and that a robbery was taking place. He then returned to the vehicle containing his crime partners and directed them to enter the residence and kill the occupants. He informed them not to notify the victims that they would be killed. Crime partner Charles Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten then entered the residence, and the prisoner drove away from the scene. The crime partners entered the residence and in a callous manner killed Lino LaBianca by inflicting multiple stab wounds to his neck and abdomen. Rosemary LaBianca was killed by multiple stab wounds which were inflicted to the neck and trunk. The crime partners carved the word war on Lino LaBianca's stomach with the use of a carving fork. At both of the above murder scenes, the prisoner's crime partners used blood of their victims to write the words. Under case number A267861, the prisoner was received into the institution on December 13, 1971 for violation of the first-degree murder concurrent with prior term. A pistol, knives, and swords were used in the following crimes which the prisoner committed with crime partners Birolsia, how do you pronounce that one? Bolsalay, Ann Atkins, and Grogan and Davis. The prisoner directed the crime partners to go to the home of victim Gary Allen Hinman and have him sign over his property. The crime partners followed the prisoner's directions, and on July 26, 1969, they contacted the prisoner from the Hinman residence. The prisoner and Davis then went to the Hinman home, and the prisoner struck Hinman with a sword, severing a part of the right ear and causing a laceration to the left side of the face. From his ear to his mouth, the prisoner and Davis then drove away from the crime scene in Hinman's Fiat automobile. On July 27, 1969, after suffering 3 days of torturous treatment, Hinman was killed by a stab wound through the heart, which was inflicted by Busalio. When Hinman was found in the Topanga Canyon home on July 31st, 1969, he had been stabbed through the heart, in addition to suffering a stab wound in the chest, a gash on the top of his head, a gash behind the right ear, and a laceration on the left side of his face, which cut his ear and cheek. This concludes the reading of the instant offense. Do you have any additions or corrections, Mr. Manson, to that?
I'd like to know who signed that, who put their name on it.
Well, nobody put their name on. This was a hearing conducted in 1982, your hearing that was conducted at that particular time, and that's a reading of the instant offense is taken from the probation office report at the time of the trial that you had. Do you have any corrections or additions to that?
Well, we can correct the whole thing, because it's basically a hearsay.
Okay, you remember what I said at the beginning of the hearing?
Yeah.
I said that we accept as true the court findings in the case. The fact that you were found guilty and you are guilty of those particular murders. If there's any change or anything you want to say about...
So all that is reality to you?
Yes. Yes, we accept as true.
And either if it never happened, it's still reality to you?
Yes, because you were found guilty by a court of law.
Okay. And all the things that in that courtroom, that went through that courtroom, is reality to you?
Yes. Okay. Yes, accept as true.
Now let me just say one thing.
Okay.
9 black Muslims and 3 Mexicans signed a writ that said I was Jesus Christ. Is that reality to you?
I
as
didn't
well?
read that in the
Well,
report.
it's in the record. I mean, you know.
We had your C file, and all the reports are made available to us.
Okay.
And I think we know most of it, but that's a reason for the hearing,
Okay,
Mr. Manson,
okay.
that you can bring these things out if you wish.
I think if you'll look in your own mind, for every point, there's a counterpoint. For every red, there's a black. For every black, there's a red. In other words, what you're making me into in your reports so that you can write your books and do your Rambo trips and make your movies for public entertainment is not really what happened. And what happened could have been explained, but if you will allow me to call a witness.
No, we do not allow witnesses in here.
I mean, it's within a panel. I'd like to question that man in front of a panel.
No, we do not allow that, Mr. Manson. We have a procedure that we
Okay.
follow. Now, if
All
you
right.
want to tell about the crime,
Okay,
then go ahead and tell about the crime. Otherwise,
then I will say it, and then if it isn't true, he can interrupt it through you, and then we can talk through you. Is that legal?
you may.
It says here that I can call witnesses on this paper here.
No.
This says I got these rights to do this.
No, you do not. If you would please respond to either any additions or corrections to the incident offense that I just read.
Yeah, I didn't tie anybody up.
Okay.
And I was never on the scene when anyone was killed. I think the law says you can only keep me 17 years or 18 years if I was never on the scene when anyone was killed. I was never on the crime scene of anything. The closest I came to the crime scene is I cut Hinman's ear off in a fight over some money because the Frenchman, he wouldn't pay the Frenchman, and I told him why don't he be a man about himself and pay his debts, and we had a fight. So in order to hook me up to that, they say, well, they tortured the dude 3 days. I was gone from that scene of that crime for 3 days. I was never on the scene of any crime. I never told anyone directly to go anywhere and do anything. I always said, and mostly it came from the witness stand, I said, like, you know what to do. You have a brain of your own. Don't ask me what to do. I just got out of prison. I don't know what's going on out here. I hadn't been out of jail long enough to really get a perspective of what was happening. I just was released from McNeil Island, and I was in Mexico City Prison before that, and I was in Terminal Island before that, so I really wasn't up on the 60s as much as you all make me out to be. I had just got out of prison. Most of those people, like Castavian, I knew her 2 weeks. I had seen her 2 or 3 times around the ranch. I had never even been with the broad, man, that much, you know. People came around me because I played a lot of music, and I was fairly free and open because I really didn't know, honestly. Everyone says that I was the leader of those people, but I was actually a follower of the children because, like, I never grew up. I've been in jail most of this time, so I stayed in the minds of the children, and I'm pretty much a street person, so violence is no new thing to me. And people getting hurt around me is no new thing. So we're kind of like married in this thought together. Like we're together whether we want to be here together or not. You know, we're stuck in this madness. You know, I don't want this job. I'm not getting paid very much, you know.
No, that's true.
And you're certainly going to get paid if you take your time. So give me a time to finish what I was trying to do, will you, please?
Is it on the crime, Mr. Manson?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then
It's the very same thing that you read.
Okay.
You know,
Go
I
ahead.
kind of anticipated what you were going to say because you've been saying the same thing for 20 years.
All right.
This has grown so much that the people living in my life have moved in with uniforms and penitentiaries. They've built whole penitentiaries in the fear that they've generated off of this case. So the public can feel safe against this monster. We're going to charge you $200 million to build another set of penitentiaries.
Mr. Manson.
So people living in my life, they don't care whether I broke the law or not. They'll make up a lot of things and sell a lot of books, 58 of them to be exact. And billions of dollars have been made, and it's okay if I have to spend my life in prison. Let me finish. Just to hold me, because I've shown you some strong strength, and I haven't surrendered to this by copping out to yours or telling tales on someone else or playing weak. You've medicated me, you've burnt me, you've beat me, you've stabbed me, you've done everything you can do to me, and I'm still here, and you're still going to have to face the truth about this case sooner or later, if not here in the street.
All right, Mr. Manson, I'm going to give you opportunities to give a closing statement, and you can read that or talk about that at that particular time. We're going to now talk about your prior criminality. I said it before, and I think you stated that you were placed in a boys' school at an early age in 1948 for burglary. You tried to escape from there or run away, whatever it was, and you were placed in Indiana State Reformatory. Again, went AWOL in February of '51. You stole an automobile, went to Utah. You were arrested there, and you were convicted of the Dyer Act and sentenced to the National Training School for Boys in Washington, D.C. Your adult convictions, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 adult convictions, beginning in 1955 and ending in 1969. They've consisted of the Dyer Act. You're sentenced to 3 years in federal prison for that. Attempted escape, 5 years probation. Forgery and mail theft, 10 years suspended. Los Angeles probation violation, 10 years federal prison. McNeil Island, Washington. South Ukiah, interfering with an officer, 3 years probation. And in Ventura, reproducing or possession of a driver's license. And in Los Angeles was the incident offense of murders. Now, you said you also spent time in Mexico in a prison?
Yeah, I was in Mexico for
In prison down there?
Mexico City prison, yeah, immigration prison.
What was that? Oh, what was that for?
I had been accused of killing some French people and a couple dudes in Acapulco.
And how long were you in prison down there?
I was there a couple different times.
A couple of times? I have here on your personal factors, Mr. Manson, that you were born in 1934 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Your mother was Kathleen Maddox, who never, and you never saw your natural father.
That's not true.
It's not true?
No, my father's name was William Manson.
William?
Yes.
And did you live with him for a while?
No, you know, it's one of those divorce trips where you see a guy walk by and he's your father, and you really don't. I remember his boots, and I remember when he went to the war. I remember when he his uniform, but I don't remember what he really looked like.
Your mother was arrested shortly after the birth and sentenced to prison for assault and robbery.
Yeah.
And you lived with your maternal grandparents and your aunt in West Virginia. You don't have a southern accent, do you?
When I need it.
Yeah, and when you need it. You later resided foster homes until you were made a ward of the court in '47. The rest of the juvenile life was spent in various reformatories and boys' schools in Pennsylvania and Indiana. You dropped out of school at the age of 9 in the 3rd grade. You married Rosalie Willis in 1954. The marriage ended in divorce in 1956. You have one son, Charles Jr., which resulted from this marriage. But you have not seen your son since the divorce. Is that correct, Mr. Manson?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. It says there no military service. You used LSD extensively, mescaline, amphetamines, and barbiturates, but no alcohol. Is that correct?
No.
Well, enlighten me.
I've taken a few tabs of acid. I smoke grass. I smoke a little hash. I don't mess with drugs per se. I don't do anything that's self-destructive. I like the cactus buds, their spiritual experience, and
Peyote?
the mushrooms are okay.
Yeah.
I drink Scotch whiskey. I like Scotch whiskey. I drink beer occasionally. I'm not much of a wine drinker, but now and then some wine with the meals, all right?
Do you get any of that in here?
No.
All right, we're going to, remember I said there were 3 areas of the hearing. The second area is your post-conviction factors. We may come back to this. I told you one area we have questions.
Do I get to say anything about that?
Oh yeah, you're going to in just a little bit. We're going to go to your post-conviction factors and your psychiatric evaluation. Now that's everything that's happened to you since your last hearing, and also the evaluation, and Deputy Commissioner Brown will handle that on my far right.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
You're welcome.
Do I get a minute here in between there?
What do you want a minute?
To respond to just what that record that you laid out there?
We'll go back to that.
There's no way my mind can handle that.
All right.
In other words, I don't have the papers you have, and I can't refer to what you're referring
Yes,
to.
you may
know.
respond to this right now. If you
Okay,
wish.
okay.
All right, go ahead.
What that whole first 11 years being locked up in, it was trying to get away. You got a juvenile, you lock him up in juvenile hall, he don't know anything. He's got no parents. He's got nobody telling him the truth. Everybody's lying to him. So the only thing he can do is run away. So that's all I did. I ran away. And every time I ran away, they just got me and put me in a harder place to get away. So every time I would run away, they would take me and put me in a more difficult place to run away, until I got to the federal prison system. I ran through Indiana, and I ran through Illinois, and I ran through Ohio. And then when they put me in Washington, D.C., Dr. Hartman put me in Virginia, Natural Bridge Camp with the moon, and that was in 51. Then I went to Petersburg, Camp Petersburg, Virginia, where they got the military academy. And then I went to Pennsylvania, and then I went to Ohio, and in 1954 I got out, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I was still 9 years old in 3rd grade in my mind. I couldn't very well know what was going on. You know, I never had any help from anyone. No one ever done anything for me. So what I did was I married the first girl I came to and stole a car and came to California because that's where she wanted to come. And I just followed her around like a blind guy because I really didn't know. California was, you know, I didn't know what California was. You know, I'm just a dumb hillbilly. I thought the pigeons were seagulls and the seagulls were pigeons. I didn't know the difference, you know. So when I got to California, it was all about fighting in the county jail. I wasn't out on the street for what, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before they had me in the jail back in Terminal Island. So I went through the lieutenant there, and they brought the guys, the lieutenants, and the men that were in the uniforms from the dentist office and all the Navy and the doctors from Dr. Hartman. They brought them from back east. They brought them to Terminal Island with a lot of the old-time gangsters that were being released as going to Needles, California, and out in the desert and doing different things in the mafia world, in that old underworld where they made all that moonshine stuff. So I learned all the things they learned. So this, I'm picking up all these things from all these older men. So they're laying out to me what's right and what's wrong. And I don't really know what's right and what's wrong, because people that say what's right and wrong, they're not doing what they say. They're doing something different than what they say, you know. So I had to find all this out for myself. So then when you keep calling me a criminal and keep calling me a bad guy, then I got to be all the things that you think in your mind that I am, which is that's not really what I am. You got me being a bastard. You got me being a dope fiend. You got me being, everything's bad. I'm only 5 foot tall. I was 5'7", then I went to 5'6". Now I'm down to 5'2". I figure about another 20 years I'll be about 4 feet tall. Because everybody's just constantly pushing it over on me like they got permission to get away with doing anything they want to do to me, because I don't have no parents, because I don't have no money, because I don't have no education. You got to have education or some parents, or you're not smart. You got to be stupid if you don't read and write. You know, you've got to be all the things that are bad if you ain't got nobody to protect you, because you find out in that cell the only person that loves you is Jesus Christ. And that rebirth movement in 1967 was mine. Now you can tell Carter and all them other people that's been stealing my life every day and living in my reality, you know, that they could read Corinthians 13, chapter verse, you know, and that'll handle that part of it.
Right.
That's the end of what I got to say there.
You did a good job there. We're going to go to the second area of the hearing now. Mr. Brown will handle your post-conviction.
I'm going to start right in with your CDC 115s. We have about 60 of them. And it doesn't appear that you have been doing very much to change them. I won't go all the way back past 1981, and I'm sure that that panel reviewed all of those 115s with you prior to that time. There's 60 of them starting from that time. Disrespect towards staff, possession of a hacksaw blade, you have a copy of those?
No.
Arson, violence, dangerous property.
No, I know what all those are, though.
I want to read a couple this year that you had. March 14th, 1992, threatening staff. On 3/14/92 at approximately 15:10 hours while conducting my duties as floor officer, I was sweeping the upper tier of A section with inmate Manson. D3392 verbally demanded I go out to the shoe yard and clear the showers now, clean the showers now because in my his opinion they're dirty. I informed inmate Manson that I wouldn't have time to clean them today. Inmate Manson began to call me a liar and a treacherous bitch. Inmate Manson also stated I would like to break all the bones in your body, starting with your elbow, working down to your knee. Then Inmate Manson stated, tell that man up there, the control booth operator, to open his cell door and let me beat you into submission so that you'll be under my power. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Threatening staff?
Do I get to explain?
You want to explain that?
Yeah.
You got it. Go ahead.
Prison is a treacherous place to live in. You miss one move and you get stabbed. You got to be aware of everything that goes on. There's nothing that you can overlook. You got to be aware of your air and the ventilator that you breathe, because if you got emphysema and a ninja warrior gets in your air, he can stop your air. So out in the shower area, they got some rust that's coming out of the pipes. And this rust is building up, and it looks just exactly like instant coffee. If you take a spoonful of that rust and you mix it in with instant coffee and you give somebody a cup of coffee, you can burn their kidneys out. You can kill them. So there's a deadly substance out in the yard that needs cleaned up. Because if I'm aware of this substance, when someone else comes out, they see this substance, they may pick some of it up and put it in my coffee. So I try to be aware of everything. So I asked the woman when she came to work, I said, would you take the hose that you've been watering me down with and squirting me with when no one's looking, and go out there and squirt down that yard and clean up that mess out there to where... and she says, well, no, she wasn't going to do that. I said, well, somebody needs to do that because it's a danger, you know. So she said she didn't want to do it, and she called me a liar, so I called her a liar back. Now, whether you want to accept this or not, the deer in the woods, there's a doe and there's a buck. The buck comes up to the doe and scares the doe, and the doe turns around and backs up to the buck. That's a matriarch and a patriarch. I live in a patriarch. You live in a matriarch. You back up to your women. I don't back up to my women. I don't take no lip from my women. I don't give them none, but I don't take none either. If they disrespect me, I'll disrespect them back. If they hit me, I'll hit them back.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to read these other two because they're along the same line. You keep your thought, and I'll let you continue to go in that vein for a short while longer. But I'm not going to allow you to ramble all day.
You got it.
The second one, February the 1st, 1992, written by an officer by the name of Bass. So you told her, Bass, you're a fuck. She attempted to counsel. You stated, open this, Bass, open. I'll take that stick away from you and beat you. We got another one. February the 10th, 1992, officer by the name of Mooney. Became verbally abusive, saying, get your nose out of my ass, you bitch. When I attempted to proceed with CDC 115, Manson exposed his penis and said, suck my dick, you black bitch, you're nothing but a witch. Manson then proceeded to spit on me. Now, you may go ahead and conclude your statement that you were making about why this kind of behavior keeps going on, as far as you're concerned.
Prison is a place where they keep men. They chew tobacco, they spit, they cuss, they do bad things. They ride horses, they fall down. It's not a place where women should be working. Women come in here, we're sitting on the toilet, we have to bear down and take our clothes off and bend over and show our private parts, and they stand there and gawk. And it's not a place for a woman. I wouldn't want my mother working in a prison if I had one. I wouldn't want my sisters. I wouldn't want my old ladies working in a prison. Prison and the authoritarian type jobs kind of, they like certain kinds of jobs. Some women that don't like men, they like these kind of jobs. They can get over on some men, and they feel really good about that because they didn't like their father and they don't like men anyway. Well, I don't particularly like men either. Whatever men is, or whatever that is to them, it's got nothing to do with what it is to me. So what it is to me is like, I say a lot of words, they say are bad words. For me, they're just words. I don't see good words or bad words. Good and bad is up to the individual to decide whatever he feels like is good words. So when you're talking to a man, you say, hey, you old dirty rah-rah, how the hell are you, you old ding-dong, movie baba? You're saying things that you're capping, what they call the dozens. You're rapping back and forwards, and you got a guy and you're sitting there rapping, and you let a stinker, and there's two guys in the room, and one of them smells it and looks at the other one and says, it wasn't me. I mean, there's only two of you there. It couldn't, you know, I mean, how are you going to lie to yourself, you know? So me and this man is standing there, and we're rapping and man talk back and forwards, and this woman come around the corner like I was talking to her. I wasn't talking to her to start with. I was talking to the guy.
You have enough sense to understand that when you've accumulated this many disciplinaries, that somewhere along the line somebody is saying that you're doing it wrong. And somewhere in your mind, you need to make some kind of decision that you're going to make a choice to stop. Now you can sit up and you can rationalize and you can come off with all the rhetoric that you want to, but it isn't going to get you out of the hole. You're just going to continue to dig yourself in deeper.
Okay. Can I explain that?
Go ahead.
The turnaround comes to push, push comes to shove. Shove comes to looking around and see where you're up above or down below, where you're at and how it turns. Something that says it's good, say it's bad, that's good, say what it is, that's cool. So when you gets cool and you got some fool coming through the door, you don't know what he's doing about what. He just come and fell out of the water like a fish on the floor. And he don't know what he's doing, he got no idea where he's at, and he's coming in other people's lives talking about words he don't even know nothing about. Then he comes into my world, my life, and tells me that's going to get me killed if I don't put up some force fields in his mind to get his ding-dong ass off of me. So I tell him, get off me. If you don't get off me, I'll teach you how to get off me. Now he learns that. He turns that around and he tells the inmate, you get up against that wall and shake down. And then he learns his man from getting the man, and when they feel real secure, then they have to get them 115s in before I get to parole, because they want to get them 115s in because they don't want to ever let me go. Because if they let me go, they lose the best thing they got, because they feel secure as long as they got me locked up in a cell. They feel like, yeah, they feel like they got the man right there in the box where they can go back and say what's what to who and says where. Are you representing who in what park or whose courtroom, see? Here's the thing. Let me say this to you, Chief Thomas. When we
hold up just a minute. My name is written right there.
Yeah,
don't you ever call me anything but that name right there. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now proceed.
Sure. So it comes to this. It's like I'm not going to try to kid you. I'm not going to try to play nothing with you.
I'm not going to play with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And let me tell you something.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
No,
wait a minute.
You wait.
Oh, you want to kick me out of here now?
No, I'm not going to kick you out of here. No way I'm going to kick you out.
We're locked horns with what? What do you want to prove?
I'm not going to tell corrections what to do with you. But we're going to follow some kind of decorum and procedure in this hearing room. I'm going to let you go just a little bit longer on this that you're talking about. Then we're going to move to your psych reports. Now go ahead.
I reflect the procedure back to stay alive, man. And I got to get nasty sometimes. Because everybody you send in here working over me is not nice.
Corcoran, California. You're going to proceed to your psychiatric evaluations. You don't have one, well, you have one for this year, but you didn't have one completed for the Board of Prison terms specifically. Bruce T. Reed, R.E.E.D., Ph.D., clinical psychologist, went over to see you on February the 19th, and you refused to be evaluated. Any reason why?
Yeah, I had two other doctors trying to evaluate me at the same time. I can't write that many books.
What doctors were trying to interview you?
Well, see, the front side, you see the doctor coming to me to give me help. The back side, he gathers information and goes to Turkey. Or he's over in France writing books about psychotherapy or group therapy.
Which doctors came to visit you at the time Dr. Reed tried to get in?
I think Dr. Christopherson, Dr. White.
Where are they from?
Right here. Since then, I think Christopherson's been fired. Ethics violation of some sort. Then there's Willis, Dr. Willis.
Willis came over to see you this...
Willis has been my psychiatrist. We went through, if you'll check the record, we went through 2 sessions. He said I was okay for level 3. He said that I was all right for level 3. What this latest doctor wants is, what's happening out of Frisco, this law firm is coming up with new psych evaluation with the Prisoners Union. The Prisoners Union in San Quentin, they got a bunch of inmates to sign a suit for better psychiatric treatment. What that means is more political power, because they're using the psychiatric base to get their doctors in here so they can get doctors up over the uniform, so they can hold the reality up over the courts and the minds of the people that live inside the prisons. Because when they can do that, then they can do Vacaville. See, when I left Vacaville, there was 12 dead doctors there with heart attacks. Dr. Morgan was the last doctor that they found him dead in the parking lot with his brain blown out. I went through doctors.
Dr. Christopherson saw you on January the 24th of this year.
Yes, sir.
And in his report of that date, states that he went over to see you because you were not eating. The staff
Yeah, he came to see me 2 or 3 times about that.
But he didn't appear to be concerned because he said you were eating. Candy bars or canteen or...
Yeah, I fast a lot.
Or whatever. He wasn't concerned about your not eating. Talked about your paranoid delusional disorder at that time in his report.
Perspective.
He prescribed a plan for you, and that was to put you on frequent waits. He said this will have 2 effects. 1, they will support the denied effect that he is on hunger strike, and they will also give the inmate a chance to get out of his cell on occasion with environmental stimulation. On the same vein, 1, will have more frequent visits to the psychiatrist. This 2 will monitor signs and symptoms of psychosis versus malingering. 3, if indeed he is on a hunger strike, he should be considered for the MOU. What is MOU?
That's some kind of
Memorandum of Understanding. He does refuse psychotropic...
medical observation.
Medical observation unit. If indeed he's on if he does refuse psychotropic medications, we may have to look for PIA decision, which is a judge-ordered involuntary medication. It should also be noted that we should have a careful monitoring of his intake and output, including material from the canteen. So he's suggesting that you would kind of take the thing a little bit.
Whenever you do something beyond someone else's understanding, and they don't want to understand it, they'll hate it. Look at it as being bad. It isn't really bad. I fast. I fast to tighten my stomach up. It makes me healthy. It's a spiritual experience. Sometimes I go 10, 15, 30 days. Sometimes I go longer than that. I fast until I can get my mind straight around whatever. When a bad circumstance comes to me and I have to deal with the mental situation all around me, I'm surrounded by inmates and officers and all kinds of things beyond your comprehension. I have to sit and I have to balance all those things in my mind. So what I do is I quit eating. And when I quit eating, what happens is that everybody trusts, and trust is going one way, but trust goes the other way too. I'm your economy. If I don't eat, then you don't know whether I'm trusting you, because the only way you know if I trust you is if I eat from your hands. So I hold all the trust with the food. And when I don't eat, then everybody gets scared, and they start going through, they're not sure, and then I'm paranoid. Because anything around me is going to be my fault, because I'm the last chicken in line. One chicken, the dogs bark at the chickens, and the chickens get to pecking on each other, and then they get the last chicken in line, and they just peck him till he either is gone or they get it straightened around, you know. And like being the last chicken in line, I have to take up the slack. So what I do is I quit eating. And then all the fat people that can't quit eating, they start going through a lot of changes. When I show them, I'm about 10 times stronger than they ever thought about dreaming about, you know.
Let me ask you something now that you got the fat joke.
Yeah.
What have you done in all the years that you've been in prison that this panel or anybody else could look at that would indicate that there's been a change in Charles Manson?
I change all the time, sir. Every day I'm in change.
Well, I can't measure that. You have to tell me.
Can I ask you a couple of questions? What did you do before this? So I know what foundation I'm in your mind, where I can speak to you from. You got any jurisprudence? You got any correctional officer experience, or policeman, or what?
I don't think you need to know that. All you need
Can
to
I
know
ask you?
No, just answer the
all
question.
you need to know is that I'm sitting on this panel today.
Okay, well, we'll go to the judge. The judge sits on the bench and he takes in his mind crime. It comes to him for judgment. It goes through his understanding, and he watches it judge itself. The judge really doesn't judge it. He judges, he lets the district attorney and it passes through his understanding. He does this 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, 5 days a week. He retires 65 years old. He's done that for 8,000 hours. I've done the same thing all my life, 24 hours a day, so I'm about 15 Supreme Court judges in my mind. In other words, I know more about law than anybody in the world. I know more about courts and procedures and criminology and penology and procedure than any card sharp dealing doubles off the bench in Monte Carlo. I know more about the economy, more about money, more about the government than any 10 presidents you got. You know, in other words, I've sat in solitary confinement and I watched everything you guys do. And the truth is, you're all lying to yourselves, you know, and like,
Mr. Manson, you're not answering Mr. Brown's question.
I'm not?
No, he asked you, what have you done in the institution to show the Board of Prison Terms and society that you've changed?
I'm real with you. I don't pretend. I'm not bringing you a bunch of phony garbage. I'm not trying to tell you that I'm a good guy. I'm just myself, whatever that is. I believe in God, and I do the best I can every day by everybody I can. You know, when something bad comes up, I react bad to it. You know, I can fight. I can't read and write too good, but boy, I can fight. You wouldn't believe how I can fight, because I've been fighting all my life to survive, and I live right on that edge of survival. You know, I just survive. I play a little music when I'm allowed to. I draw real good, but took my pencils. Everything I do, if I can do it real good, they'll take it away from me. I used to make little dolls with string, and he come and took the string. So I'm not allowed to do anything, I'm not allowed any clothes. I haven't combed my hair in 2-3 years. You know, I can't comb my hair, I can't do anything.
Have you been involved in any psychiatric intervention?
Yeah, I've seen more doctors than doctors have seen inmates. I was Dr. Nickel there in the back alley over there in Vacaville, in the rec shack.
Was this at a therapy setting?
Well, I guess you could call it a therapy setting. I was handling all the crazy people and taking care of the kids in the visiting room, and holding in the garden in the chapel.
Was anybody doing anything?
No, everybody was doing what I told them.
No. Were any of the therapists doing anything to assist you in your life?
No, it was me doing it for them. I had to look out for the veterans just came back in the war, and all the wheelchairs and all the doctors. They had a lot of Vietnamese doctors come in who couldn't speak English. So I had to get the medication for all straightened around for that, you know, because my life at the bottom, I got to look out for everybody else's life too, or I can't get on through what I'm trying to do. I like to play music, but they took my music away, and I took my guitar away. That's the only thing I do. I play with music. But they're scared of that. Anything I do, they get afraid of, and then they'll run and tell the cops that they're afraid of whatever I'm doing, and they run and take it away from me, and I'm not allowed to do anything. So I just set a cell, you know. I don't really need to do anything because I'm doing everything all the way anyway. I'm already.
Now, you keep talking about not being able to read and write.
Not that well, I read my
Me, I'm the chairman.
I know that.
Okay? And this is time for questions by any one of the panel members and the district attorney. I have a couple of questions. Do you feel any responsibility for the murders?
Sure.
Okay. Could you elaborate briefly?
I influenced a lot of people, unbeknownst to my own understanding of it. I didn't understand the fears of people outside. I didn't understand the insecurities of people outside. I didn't understand people outside. And a lot of things that I said and did affected a lot of people in a lot of different directions. It wasn't intentional, and it definitely wasn't with malice or forethought.
Okay, you answered it.
Oh,
Do you have remorse, Mr. Manson? Do you feel any remorse for the victims whatsoever?
Now, we reach an impasse here, man. We're in pawn 4, bishop 4 to 7. Let's see. How do I finesse that? You say, in your minds, that I'm guilty of everything that you've got on paper. So therefore, it would run logic that I would need to have remorse for what you think is reality. And if that be true, then all the ocean's contents, if it were my tears, there would not be enough to express the remorse I have for the sadness of that world that you people live in.
Okay.
But I don't have, on the other side of that, I asked you back the same thing. You know, you've been using me ever since I was 10 years old. They used to beat me with leather straps, you know. It's like, does anyone have any remorse that I've spent 23 years in a solitary cell, and even on Devil's Island, you didn't keep anyone over 5 years. You broke every record that they've ever set in the planet Earth. You only kept Christ on the cross 3 days.
Mr. Manson, I think you answered the question. Do you still have a family? Per se, the type of the family you had at the time of the crimes. Do you
Yeah.
still have a family?
Family.
Uh-huh.
That's another one of the district attorneys. See, when they set that case into the paperwork to make it real, they had to catch little words so they could turn all that in and make it into a reality. Hippie cult leader is a word that they used. Leader, family.
Well, I believe I read in the reports where you yourself mentioned your family. And
Yeah,
that's
well,
the type of family I'm
you keep
talking
driving
about.
that on me, and then I have to refer to what's already on me.
My simple question is, do you still have a family as existed at that particular time?
I can't answer that in just a bet. You know, it would take more time than you want to listen to me.
Well, yes or no? You either have a
Well,
family
there's
or
no
not.
yes or no, but I got to plus the complete don't
All right, all right. All right,
Yes,
now-
no, or bloopy, or dala, outside of the or ribbit, you know, like you
Okay.
was stuck in yes and no.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
Mr. Brown, do you have any further questions?
I have no further questions.
Mr. Cedal? All right. Mr. Kay, we're going to go to questions by the district attorney on something that has not been covered, anything that has not been covered, or something that he would like to emphasize. He will pose the questions to the panel, and when you answer the questions of Mr. Manson, would you answer the panel, please?
Sure.
Okay? Go ahead, Mr. Kay, do you have any questions?
We get to do this back the other way?
No.
Oh, yeah.
One way.
Now, what all you people think about that? yeah, we had fair play, huh?
Now, let's
Yeah.
pay
Look at the
attention.
camera, look at the...
Yeah, I know,
Mr.
yeah, I
Kate.
know the man when I see it.
Thank you. I think the interesting thing for the board to do here is to question Mr. Manson about the 9th murder he was convicted of. He doesn't mind talking about the Tate LaBianca murders and the Hinman murder because he's never accepted the law of conspiracy and aiding and abetting in California. And he always thought that if he didn't physically do the murder himself, that he wouldn't be guilty. His followers would be guilty, but he didn't really care about that. But the one murder that he doesn't like to talk about because the evidence came out in court that he personally stabbed Shorty Shea to death. He stabbed him, Bruce Davis stabbed him, Tex Watson stabbed him. Yes.
This is time for questions. Do you have
Yes.
any questions?
Yes, that's the question. I would like you to ask Mr. Manson what he did to Shorty Shea.
Which is inside the state prison. You're not missing anything yet. He has not yet come back in. This is a shot of it. You can see our correspondent Peter Thorne sitting off to the left. We're only allowed one camera inside. And of course, you've been looking at the live parole hearing. The last time that Charles Manson was up for parole was back in 1989, February 8th. He waived his personal appearance at that hearing, did not show, but he has, of course, shown today. Let's resume.
Okay, we'll take them. Okay. We reconvene the panel hearing on Charles Manson after a brief break as requested by the prisoner. All participants are present now. We're present prior to the recess. The time is 15 hours. Go ahead, Mr. Manson, with your closing statement regarding suitability.
You gonna limit me to suitability?
I'll let you ramble a little bit, but I'd like you to stick to
Is that
suitability.
what you call it, rambling?
Well, no, I didn't mean it that way. I will allow you to talk about what you would like to talk about, as long as you don't stray too far from suitability, please.
As long as I don't say anything, it's okay if I talk.
No, I'm allowing you to say it. Talk.
You see 9 dead people. That's not even a tip of it. That just set one little blaze to this thing that you call Helter Skelter that you created for Rambo's movies, so all the Italians can move over from New York and move into district attorney's office, and this Anglo-Christian girl don't seem to know which whorehouse has got the red light on it. The law, in my perspective, is a MAC, like there's a court on the inside, like inmate court. We've always held a court in the inner sanctum of prison. Peace officers are servants to the will of everyone. The Bible, the church has a chapel, a preacher in it. We abide by the rules and regulations. It goes into the courtroom to do the same. If I abide by the rules and regulations, I can walk in harmony with God. If I don't abide by the rules and regulations, sooner or later, I have to fall short and go through a lot of changes. It's best you look into my mind now while you got a chance while I'm still here. I know a lot about law. I know the judge's bench. I know crime and school and doctors and reports, and I know bad and good and money and economy and gambling and prostitution. I see the world from the underworld up. So I go out in the desert when I get out in 54, and I see birds and I see bees and bugs and trees, and then I get locked up. And when I get back out again, all these bugs and birds and trees are gone. There's shopping malls where the lake used to be, using up all the water. And the creeks is over there where the freeway is, and you can't swim there anymore. There's no more fish there, and civilization has moved out and it's choking all the life off the earth. So it's not my affair. I just got out of jail. I don't know that much about it. A couple old men I met in Mexico City. We used to deal mushrooms and talk about the planet and the earth and the balance of the earth. And all these kids come around me, and I'm playing music, and they ask me, how do I know these things, and where does these things come from? And I said, well, the only thing I know is what I learned in jail, man. You know, like, my brother's in jail. Like, my brother, you know, my brother's like, he's God, you know, he lives in jail, you know. And that's all I know is what I've done, you know. I say, but I tell you, them, if you don't stop cutting them trees down, there's going to be nothing of you left, you know. And a lot of the kids never met anybody that told them the truth. They never had anybody that was truthful to them, you know. They never had anybody that wouldn't lie or snake on them or play old fake games. So all I did was I was honest with a bunch of kids, and they would just come to me and say, we ain't got no place to stay. And I said, well, I ain't got no place to stay either. And they say, well, can we stay with you? I said, can you stay with me? They'd say, well, we want to be a family. I said, don't put no tags on my toes, man. Don't give them people nothing to identify with that they can come back and put me back in the penitentiary with. I know what conspiracy is. I got an intelligence. I'm not that stupid.